What did they do with the eater?
Morning, everyone. Thanks for joining us at St George's Park ahead of fixtures against Spain and Ukraine in a couple of weeks' time. And we'll take questions from the floor. We'll begin with you, Anton.
Thanks, David. Hi, Sarina.
Hi.
Ella Toone is back. That must be a really nice for you to be able to call on her again.
Yeah, absolutely. So it's nice she's back. And of course she's called up. So it's good to have that option too in midfield.
Obviously, she hasn't played much in the last 6 months. How sort of match sharp is she? And I suppose it's a similar question for Lucy Bronze, considering she's missed time at the end of the season for Chelsea as well.
Yeah, there are a couple of players who haven't played that many minutes. I still think they're the best players and that we can make the chance of winning as high as possible when they're in. And we'll see when she comes in. But we have a squad of 25, so we have enough options that we can play.
No Erica Meg Parkinson in this squad. Why have you made that decision?
Well, because of course Erica came in our squad for the first time as a young player, turned 18 in our in camp. We wanted to see her. She brought what we thought she could bring, and I said in that press conference she would really surprise me if she would play as straight away as a starting position. But I think she showed a couple of things. There's still a gap for her, like earning the minutes. To compete with the other players in the squad, and she's with the World Cup Under-20 team.
I'm just wondering, this summer is going to be unlike we've kind of seen really in terms of players moving and the players that are available. One of the players who is moving is BETH MEAD'S. Now, she's only started 12 WSL games this season, only scored 2 goals. How important is her next move, considering we're going into a World Cup year?
Yeah, I think very important. She's still very ambitious. I think she still has the highest level. And I think, you know, when you play at Arsenal, they have such a strong squad and they have so many games that there's split minutes in those games. And I think she wants to move and get a good move and wants to compete for the World Cup and make the squad next year. And of course, it's a long way out, but of course you have to make the right decision then.
How important is something like Champions League football to players when you're analysing and trying to pick your squads? Because I look at someone like Grace Clinton, who isn't in this squad. Obviously, that's mainly because she's come back from injury. But obviously, she didn't have Champions League football, so didn't have as much of a chance to play as many games this season.
Yeah, I think it's just really important to get playing minutes because you get rhythm, then you get to your highest level. I also think there's a difference when a player has played several years long term at the highest level, then you've so many, I would say, hours in your legs and in your brain that will help. And the young players, it's even more important to get more minutes to get in a situation where you can deliver a game and 3 days later you can deliver again. That's something physically you need to be able to, but also mentally. And that's for everyone is a bit different.
And finally, one player who isn't in the squad is Ruby Mace. Obviously, she's had a good season at Everton. She was named in the WSL Team of the Year. How close is she to the squad and what more does she need to do?
Yeah, we are, of course, we're looking a lot at the players and with they also, with the under-23s, they play with their own clubs. She plays in a different position than we would select her for. I think she's doing well, but at the same time, there's so much competition going on in our squad, and she's just behind other players, as well as some other players that are not selected today.
Thanks, Ray.
Thanks, Anton. Tom?
Thank you. Morning, Sarina.
Morning.
Nice to see you. Just on Ella Toone, great to see her back. But how do you think she'll be ready in time to kind of play meaningful minutes against Spain, Ukraine? Is she still progressing back towards like full fitness? How are things going?
Well, we haven't made decisions on starting lines up and minutes yet. And I know for a lot of players it's the end of the season now, and also some players are still playing. But I don't know. Yeah, we have to see her in our environment. What I've seen, I think, looks good. Can she play 90 minutes at the highest level? I don't know. But I know she can play. And as I said, we have options in midfield as well as, of course, up front and in the back. And we'll approach it that we want to get the best, at that moment, the best team on the pitch. And also knowing then if we need to sub, what we need to do.
Anton asked you about Erica Meg Parkinson, I don't know if you've seen, but in the last few days she's been linked with a move to the NWSL. I'm wondering if that's, for her development, is that something you would welcome to see her go to a competitive league like that ahead of the World Cup for her? And have you spoken to her at all about her options for the summer?
We have, well, of course, there's a lot of things in the media about where players are going to. So, but I haven't spoken to her about it. I think it's hard to say what moves are. What you want is that the player makes a decision that she thinks she gets in the best possible environment to improve as a player and to get playing minutes, especially at her age. So, and there's then several options for them. And of course, there's more than football. And I look the most at football. What's going to make you the best player, or going to help you developing, and what do you need for that? And of course, then there's another thing: what's life about there? And of course, there's also now the financial circumstances. So, I think she'll probably make the best decision for her, and I hope so too. I think I have spoken to her, of course, during camp, and she came across as a very mature person already at that age, and really wants to get to a situation where she can improve even more.
And between now and the match against Spain, there's the seven-a-side World Sevens tournament. If I've counted correctly, 12 of these players might be able to play in that because their teams are involved. Should we expect any of those 12 to not be taking part in that, to rest ahead of your game against Spain? I know you said in April that it would be kind of conversations with each player, but...
Well, what we said, and that's the same like with last year. I think some players, or a lot of players, they're really excited about that too. Something different. It's good that the teams keep training. That's anyway very important, because some teams have 2 weeks and then we go into camp. You can't just take a break for 2 weeks. You have to keep training and make sure that you get fit and fresh, stay fit and get fresh for the international games. Just players have to be really smart. So, don't overload yourself. Enjoy it if you're going to go out there. And some players will join, other players will not. But for me, it's really important that they get ready for our games against Spain and Ukraine.
Could I ask one more question? Since we last spoke to you, I believe it's been confirmed there'll be 26-player squads at the World Cup next summer.
It's a tend to be, yeah.
Is that, rather than the 23 it was before, is that a move that you're welcoming, that news ahead of Brazil 2027?
I think at one hand I'm welcome it, so you have more options. At the other thing, with 23 you have a lot of options to how many players are you going to play. I think at some moments, because some people think, like if you would get an injury at or 2 injuries at one position, then you have some more options. So I do welcome it, and I think it's going to be more and more intense, and you have more options then. And at the same time, I think what we have had over the 23, I think that was pretty good too. But we spoke about this before with the goalkeepers. You need to have an option, because goalkeepers is such a specific role in the team. You can't just say, oh, someone else will put in goal. Yeah, you can, but I don't think you get the levels then. Or some would surprise us. And a rule like that to implement, that when a player in the same position then you could add a player, that would be an option too. But 26 is good for me too.
Hi, Sarina. Tom mentioned about Erica Parkinson potentially going over to the US, and quite a lot of young English players are making that move over to the NWSL. Perhaps maybe sometimes because the opportunities in England or in the WSL for minutes aren't quite there. I wondered kind of what you felt maybe are the benefits of them making that move over to the US, and potentially whether there are some downsides in terms of maybe the travel if they're coming back here, and also maybe just why the minutes are available in the US and potentially not here.
Yeah, we have to see that. I think the Women's Super League is a really good league. I think the NWSL is a very good league too. They're really competing with each other. It looks a bit different. And I think it's really individual what's the best decision to make. And what you say, the travel is really hard, especially when we go into FIFA windows. Players also get used probably a little bit more, because when they're on that competition, they travel a lot too. But I think for some individuals, that might be the best decision to get when you get the full picture, and for others it might not be. So I wouldn't say it's really bad or it's not bad. I find it pretty hard to say what's the best, because that's really individual. What does the player need? What environment does the player need? and in what team, what type of game does a team play, and does that fit that player to get to her best? So it's really an individual question, I would say.
And just wanted to ask about Grace Clinton as well. Obviously, she's just still coming back from injury. I wondered if that was kind of the reasoning for her not being in this squad, or whether it was more to do with the competition in that position.
Yeah, a bit of both, of course. There's a lot of competition going on, and I just have not seen enough from her on the pitch. We all know she's a really, she's a very gifted player, but I have to see a little bit more from her too.
Any further questions? Yep.
Thank you. Hi, Angelina from TalkSport. I just wanted to ask about Aggie Beever-Jones and how you assess her season, because although she's, had a couple of injury issues, considering how much potential she has, does she need to be playing more at club level?
Well, that's up to her. I think, we know as a lot of other young players, she's a very talented player. Yes, she had some injuries. She's still coming back. So she's also a player that's, again, still building. But there's also work to do for her. And I think should she be playing, I'm not dictating playing minutes. I think a player should show her very, very best and deliver for the team, which then makes the coach decide to put her on the pitch. And there's competition going on, but what you can control, you should do everything to make it really hard for the coach that's coaching you to not put you on the pitch.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Any final questions? Yes, we'll go to the back row.
Thank you. Hi, Sarina. How important is it to avoid the playoffs and qualify automatically, especially against the reigning champions?
Well, we're just really approaching it as we have an opportunity to qualify for the World Cup, and we know what the scenarios are, and we really want to go out there and play to win. And we know, of course, how it stands that if we win or we tie, then we qualify the first game. But even if we wouldn't, there's still a chance against the Ukraine game. And if that wouldn't be the case, then we have a chance to qualify in the autumn. So that's the factual situation. Of course, what we want to do is go to Mallorca and play Spain and beat Spain. That's our starting point, and go out and play better than we have done in Wembley, because we want to improve every single day. And that's our starting point, how we are going to approach this next week.
Thank you. Beating Spain twice recently, does that give you any added pressure going into the game?
No, it's not so result related. Of course, it's enjoyable to win games, and especially such competitive games. It's going to be an incredibly hard game. We know the strengths of Spain, but also that it's not going to put any more pressure. There's pressure on it anyway, and we know what it brings when you win the game. But we just go out there and want to do better and improve from the games we have played against them recently. So improve every time, and let's see what we can bring out there and show.
Thank you.
I'm sure they want to do that too.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Great. We'll see you in a couple of weeks. Thanks for your time.
Thanks
you. Everyone.